pack your bags and get out of my sight. You're a stain on this marble floor, Elena. And I'm finally done scrubbing." Those were the words Marcus used to end a 7-year marriage, uttered not in the privacy of their home, but on the rain-slicked driveway of their estate, right in front of his smirking mistress. Elena stood there, clutching a single battered suitcase and a grocery bag, the cold rain mixing with the hot tears streaming down her face. She looked like a woman who had lost everything, but Marcus had no idea that he was currently standing on land she owned, in a city she practically built, mocking a woman who could erase his entire existence with a single phone call. Before we dive into this incredible journey of betrayal and hidden power, I want to take a moment to welcome you back to A Quiet Empire. We are so glad you're here for this emotional ride. Tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from today. We love seeing our global family grow, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. Your support helps us tell these stories of strength and justice. Now, let's see how a woman who owned the world ended up standing in the rain. The beginning of the lie. Elena Vance was a woman of shadows. To the world, she was the quiet, submissive wife of Marcus Thorne, the golden boy of the tech industry. She was the woman who stayed in the background, wore muted colors, and spent her days tending to their home and local charities. Marcus often joked to his friends that Elena was the perfect accessory, reliable, quiet, and completely dependent on him. But the truth was a masterpiece of deception. Elena was not just Elena Vance. She was Evie Knight, the reclusive founder and CEO of Ethelgard Global, a conglomerate with its hands in everything, from aerospace to renewable energy. With a net worth exceeding $100 billion, she was one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. She had built her empire under a pseudonym to protect her privacy, and to find something she feared her money would always corrupt. True love. When she met Marcus 10 years ago, he was a struggling developer with big dreams and a crumbling startup. She didn't see a businessman. She saw a man with a spark. She used her resources secretly, through third-party angel investors, to fund his company. She orchestrated his rise to power, ensuring every door opened for him, while she played the role of the supportive girlfriend who worked at modest remote job in data entry. She wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she owned. And for a long time, she thought she had found it. The mask slips. The shift started slowly. As Marcus's fame grew, his ego ballooned. He began staying out late, claiming business meetings that smelled of expensive perfume and gin. He stopped asking Elena about her day. He started criticizing her appearance, her lack of ambition, and her simple tastes. "You're stagnating, Elena," he told her one evening, swirling a glass of vintage scotch. "I'm moving in circles with senators and You still buy grocery store bread. It's embarrassing." Elena looked at him, her heart aching. She was the one who had literally approved his company's latest merger that morning from her private study. Yet here he was, ashamed to be seen with her. She stayed quiet, hoping the man she fell in love with was still in there somewhere. Then came Juliana. Juliana was the daughter of a rival tech mogul, so Marcus thought. In reality, Juliana's father was a middle at one of Elena's subsidiary companies who had been fired for embezzlement. Juliana was a social climber who saw Marcus as her golden ticket, and Marcus saw Juliana as the high-status woman he deserved. The public humiliation. The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday night. It was their 7th wedding anniversary. Elena had prepared a small, intimate dinner, even though she knew Marcus would likely be late. She had a gift for him, the deed to a private island. A gesture, she hoped, would finally allow her to come clean about her identity and invite him into her real world. She was waiting in the foyer when the front gates groaned open. But he wasn't just Marcus's car. It was a fleet of luxury SUV. Marcus walked through the door, but he wasn't alone. He held Juliana by the waist, both of them laughing. Behind them were several of Marcus's business associates, and a photographer from a prominent social magazine. "Marcus, what's going on?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. Marcus didn't even look at her. He turned to the photographer. "Get a shot of the house. It's beautiful, isn't it? It'll look much better once we renovate. Juliana has such an eye for modern aesthetics." Elena stepped forward. "Marcus, it's our anniversary. Who are these people?" Marcus finally turned to her, his eyes cold and full of disdain. "Right. The anniversary. Consider this your divorce present. Elena, I've already had my lawyers file the papers. You're out. This house, the cars, the life, it's all mine. I'm moving Juliana in tonight." The room went silent. The associates looked away. Somi with pity. Others with the same cold indifference as Marcus. "You're kicking me out now," Elena whispered. "I've outgrown you," Marcus said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're a small-town girl with small-town dreams. I'm a titan of industry. I need a queen, not a maid. Your things are already in the driveway." Juliana stepped forward, a cruel smile on her lips. "Don't take it personally, honey. Some people are just meant to be the background noise in someone else's symphony." Here, she reached into her designer bag and pulled out a $20 bill, tossing it at Elena's feet. "For a taxi. I'm sure you don't have much in that little savings account of yours." Elena didn't pick up the money. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply turned and walked out the door into the brewing storm. She found her belongings scattered on the wet pavement. 2 bags and a grocery sack of food she had bought for their anniversary dinner. She stood by the gate as the rain began to pour, soaking through her cheap cardigan. Inside the house, she could hear the clinking of glasses and the sound of a toast. Marcus was celebrating his freedom. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. It was a specialized, encrypted device, the only thing she hadn't hidden. She wiped the rain from the screen and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. "Grandmaster!" A deep voice answered on the first ring. It was Silas, a head of global security, and the only person who knew the full extent of her movements. "Silas," Elena said, her voice dropping the soft, submissive tone she had used for a decade. It was now cold, sharp, and commanding. "The experiment is over." "I see," Silas replied, his voice brimming with a suppressed fury. "Shall I initiate the protocol?" Elena looked back at the glowing windows of the mansion she had purchased through a shell company and leased to Marcus for a nominal fee he thought was a tax loophole. "No," Elena said, a dark glint appearing in her eyes. "Don't just shut him down. I want to watch him climb a little higher first. I want him to think he's won. I want him to spend every cent he thinks he has. Give him the Jupiter contract." There was a gasp on the other end of the line. The Jupiter contract was a massive, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project Edelgard Global was about to award. To win it would make Marcus the richest man in the state. To lose it would be total ruin. "And Silas," Elena added, looking at the $20 bill Juliana had thrown, now fluttering in the wind. "Yes, ma'am. Find out who Juliana's father is. I want to know exactly which one of my companies he's hiding in." Over the next few weeks, the world watched as Marcus Thorne became the darling of the business world. He was seen everywhere with Juliana, flaunting his new wealth and his impending Jupiter deal. He gave interviews about trimming the dead weight from his life to achieve true success. Elena, meanwhile, had vanished. To Marcus, she was a ghost, likely crying in some rundown apartment in her hometown. In reality, Elena had moved into the penthouse of the Ethelgard Tower. The invisible queen had returned to her throne. She spent her days in the boardroom, dismantling Marcus's support system piece by piece. She bought out his suppliers. She whispered in the ears of his investors. She made sure that every win, it was actually a rope she was giving him to hang himself with. She watched through hidden cameras as Marcus and Juliana threw lavish parties in her old home, drinking her wine and mocking her memory. She was so pathetic. Juliana laughed during a televised gala. She actually thought Marcus loved her. She didn't realize she was just a placeholder until someone of real substance came along. Elena sat in her darkened office, watching the screen. She pressed a button on her desk. Silas is the trap set. He's signed everything. Ma'am, he's leveraged every asset. He owns, including his company, and his personal accounts do fund his portion of the Jupiter project. He thinks tomorrow is the day he becomes a billionaire. Elena stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. Tomorrow isn't the day he becomes a billionaire. Silas, tomorrow is the day he finds out who I am. The night of the gala. The grand reveal of the Jupiter contract winner was the event of the year. Every major player in the world was there. Marcus arrived in a custom tuxedo, Juliana dripping in diamonds that Marcus had bought on credit. Fully expecting the contract to cover the debt, the lights dimmed. The chairman of the board for Globa man Marcus had spent months trying to impress stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman said, the Jupiter contract is the largest venture in our history. It requires a partner of immense integrity and vision. However, before we announce the winner, our founder and CEO, Evie Knight, has requested to make a personal appearance. As you know, she has never appeared in public before. A murmur of shock ran through the crowd. Marcus leaned over to Juliana. This is it! If I get an audience with Knight, we're set for life. The music swelled. The heavy velvet curtains parted. A woman walked out. She was dressed in a gown of midnight blue silk that cost more than Marcus's entire house. Her hair was styled in a sharp, elegant bob. Her stride was confident, regal, and terrifying. Marcus's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Juliana turned pale, her jaw dropping. It was Elena. She walked straight to the microphone, her eyes locking onto Marcus in the front row. The room went deathly silent. Good evening, Elena said, her voice echoing with power. I believe some of you have met me as Elena, but tonight you will know me as the woman who owns everything you've ever touched. She paused, a cold smile playing on her lips. Marcus, you told me I was a stain on your floor. Well, I've decided it's time to clean the house. Elena turned to the chairman. Cancel the Jupiter contract to Thorn Industries. Silas. From the side of the stage, Silas stepped forward, handing Elena a tablet. Initiate the foreclosure on all Thorn properties, Elena commanded, and call the authorities regarding Juliana's father. I believe we have the evidence of his fraud now. The crowd erupted in chaos. Security guards moved toward Marcus. He looked like he was about to faint, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. But then Elena's smile faded. She looked past Marcus toward the back of the room, where a man she hadn't seen in years, a man who represented a part of her past she had tried to bet, he was standing, watching her with a knowing smirk. He held up a single red envelope. Elena's heart stopped. The revenge she had spent weeks planning suddenly felt hollow, because in that envelope was the one secret she had forgotten, the one secret that could destroy her empire before Marcus even hit the ground. What is in the red envelope? Who is this mysterious man from Elena's past? And can Elena survive the very trap she set for her husband? Stay tuned for part 2. The conclusion is coming soon. The red envelope in the high-stakes world of global finance. That specific shade of crimson was a calling card for the Shadow Syndicate, a group of old money families who had funded Elena's very first venture. They were the silent partners she had spent a decade trying to buy out. And the man holding it was Julian's brother, Victor, a man who believed that Elena's empire didn't belong to her, but to the collective that gave her the first push. Elena felt the cold grip of reality while she was playing a game of cat and mouse with a small-minded man like Marcus. A shark had been circling her own waters. But first, she had a debt to collect. The immediate aftermath. Marcus was being escorted out by security. his face pale and slick with sweat. Juliana was screaming, her voice shrill as she tried to claw at the guards. "You can't do this. This is a mistake. Elena is a nobody. She's a housewife," Juliana shrieked, her designer heels clicking frantically on the marble. Elena stepped down from the stage, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. She walked directly up to Marcus. The security team paused, allowing her one final word. "You said I was a stain," Marcus, Elena said, her voice a calm, deadly whisper. "But a stain is just something that was there before you arrived. I wasn't the stain. I was the foundation. And today, I've decided to move the house." "Elena, please," Marcus whimpered, his ego completely shattered. "I didn't know. If I had known who you were." "That's the point, isn't it?" Elena interrupted. "You only respect power you can see. You only value what you can use. You didn't love me when I was nothing, so you don't deserve me now that I am everything." She turned to the lead security officer. "He has 30 minutes to vacate the Thorn Industries building. After that, everything, the servers, the patents, the furniture belongs to Eth. As for the house, change the locks, throw his things back on the driveway. Let's see if he can find a $20 bill in the rain." As Marcus and Juliana were dragged out into the night, the gala guests began to applaud. It was the ultimate story of justice, but Elena didn't stay to celebrate. She had a ghost to confront. Elena retreated to her private lounge at the top of the tower. Victor was already there, sitting in her chair, the red envelope resting on his knee. "You always did like a dramatic entrance," Elena, Victor said, his voice smooth and dangerous. "But you've become sloppy. You spent so much time looking down at your husband that you forgot to look up. What do you want, Victor?" Elena asked, standing by the window. "The syndicate is tired of your independence. You've grown too large to be a silent asset. We want 51% of Eth. In exchange, we don't release the contents of this envelope. And what's in it? My tax returns, my pseudonym, history, Vitor Smile, something much more personal. The true identity of your father. The man you think died in a factory fire. The man who actually started the syndicate and then disappeared when he realized his daughter was more ruthless than he ever was." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Her father was her hero, the reason she built her empire. To find out he was a founder of the very group trying to extort her was a blow she wasn't prepared for. If you release that, you destroy the syndicate's myth of pure blood and old money, Elena countered, her mind racing. You'd be admitting a factory worker built your foundation, a risk we're willing to take to control a $100 billion company. Victor shrugged. You have 24 hours, the redemption of the quiet empire. Elena didn't sleep. She spent the night in the archives of her own company. If her father had been part of the syndicate, he would have left a trail. He was a man of patterns, a man who believed that the quietest room is where the most work gets done. By 4 a.m., she found it, a hidden digital partition in the Ethelgard core server, accessible only by a biometric scan of a specific sequence of her DNA. When the file opened, it wasn't a confession of guilt. It was a video. Her father, gray-haired and tired, sat in a small office. Elena, if you're seeing this, the syndicate has come for you. They think they own you because they gave me the seed money. What they don't know is that I paid them back tenfold 30 years ago. I kept the receipts in the Cayman accounts under your mother Essimeda name. You don't owe them a cent. In fact, through a series of debt swaps I engineered before I left, you actually own them. Elena leaned back, a tear finally escaping her eye. Her father hadn't betrayed her. He had shielded her. The next morning, Victor walked into Elena's office, flanked by his lawyers. He looked triumphant. Time's up, Elena. Sign the transfer, or the world finds out your quiet empire was built on a lie. Elena didn't even look up from her tablet. Actually, Victor, I've been doing some light reading. It turns out the syndicate hasn't had a profitable quarter in 5 years. You've been living off the interest of debts that was settled decades ago. Victor's smile faltered. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm talking about the sovereign buyback, Elena said, sliding a document across the desk. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Ethelgard Global has acquired the holding company that owns the syndicate's properties. You aren't here to take my company. You're here to ask for your next month's rent. She stood up, the power radiating from her. I'm not just the girl you funded. I am the woman who bought the bank. You're fired, Victor, from your own life. The moral of the story. Weeks later, a video went viral on social media. It showed a man who looked remarkably like Marcus Thorne, working at a car wash in the suburbs. He looked tired, older, and broken. Nearby, a woman who looked like Juliana was arguing with a landlord on a street corner, her designer bags replaced by plastic sacks. Elena Vance not watch the video from her garden. She wasn't watching out of spite. She was watching as a reminder. She had learned that power isn't about the name on the building or the car in the driveway. True power is the ability to remain yourself when the world tries to tell you who you are. She had hidden her identity to find love, and she had found something better. Her own strength. She picked up her phone and made a final call to her foundation. Double the funding for the local women's shelters, she said, and make sure the donations are anonymous. We don't need a name to make a difference. Elena's empire remains quiet, but its impact is deafening. She proved that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one you choose to ignore. Thank you for watching this journey on her quiet empire. If this story touched your heart or gave you a sense of justice, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, your value is not defined by how others see you, but by the fire you carry inside. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story of power and redemption. We'll see you in the next one.